Welcome and welcome back to the post-analysis after the opening of Parliament by President Cyril Ramaphosa, and we are going to bring you quite a few interviews now after that speech from President as well, from BOSA Nobuntu, who's the Deputy President. How are you, young lady?
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we've now witnessed the official speech of the GNU. What are your thoughts after President Ramaphosa? What were the highlights that you would like to maybe mention?
Look, I think one of the things that we do welcome was the focus on municipalities, metros particularly. We have metros that really need to be revived and restored. eThekwini particularly being one of the metros that needs attention, so that focus is welcome. But all in all, it was an address that was quite thin on detail. So, we've heard all of this before. A song comes to mind that says, heard it all before. So we really are at a place where we're dealing with issues that we've heard before. We're dealing with promises that we've heard before. What we would have hoped for was a reform agenda. What we would have hoped for was fresh plans, was fresh ideas, and something that's a little bit thicker in terms of the practicalities of what is going to happen. And we didn't hear that.
You made a lot of mention and, hopeful promises and projects to be put in place, especially for our young children that are so vulnerable in our communities. I was impressed with that. Were you?
Look, it was good to hear about the plans for infrastructure as it pertains to schools. That was good to hear. Little on schools in terms of the system itself. How do we improve the system? We've always maintained as BOSA that when you look at the education system at the 30% pass mark in many of the subjects, for instance, that's something that needs to be looked at. So great on infrastructure, it's something that we need. But how do we then start to see a reform of the system itself?
What were you hoping that he would spend a little more time and effort into?
When it comes to economic growth, we all know we need economic growth. We all know we need jobs. We had hoped to hear a little bit more detail. We heard about infrastructure development. We've all known that we need infrastructure development, and we've heard it in previous addresses. What we would have hoped to hear are more solid plans in terms of how do we grow the economy. And that was really, really thin tonight.
Are you going to keep a very close eye on the next couple of months, I would imagine, from BOSA, and then be that proverbial watchdog?
Absolutely. One of the things that was missing that we would have hoped to hear tonight was about how do we strengthen the role of Parliament, given that there's a GNU. And one of the unintended consequences is that you have less accountability. And we didn't hear about that. We didn't hear about how the GNU actually intends to hold each other and themselves accountable. So we're going to play that role. That's the role that we're here to play. We're going to make sure that we watch in those portfolio committees and in just the general delivery and implementation, we're going to be watching very closely. And we're going to be working towards helping to make sure that these plans are implemented.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much for having me.